Geeta, one of our subscribers originally from Kerala, shares her story. She currently lives in Delhi with her parents and younger brother, though her native place is Palakkad town in Kerala. She writes that before the lockdown, her grandmother used to live with them. Since both her parents were working, Geeta spent most of her time after school with her grandmother. Her grandmother would often have Geeta sleep next to her and tell her stories about their village in Kerala and the local deities. One day, while Geeta was lying next to her grandmother, she noticed a burn mark on her hand. She asked, "Grandma, what is this mark?" Hearing this, her grandmother went silent for a moment. To divert the topic, she started telling a different story. But Geeta was stubborn. She insisted on knowing how that burn mark got there. Faced with Geeta's persistence, her grandmother was forced to give in. She opened up a chapter of her life that, once read, completely blew my mind. This story will send a jolt through your nerves and force you to think. The background. Geeta clarifies that the grandmother in this story is not her biological grandmother. Her actual grandparents passed away when she was very young. The woman she is talking about is her father's aunt, his Bua, named Sita. Geeta was emotionally attached to her from childhood, and Sita would often come and stay with them for long periods. The incident dates back to when Geeta's parents had been living in Delhi for 15 years due to their jobs. During one of Sita's visits, Geeta noticed the mark, and Sita revealed the story. The timeline, 1980. Geeta's biological grandfather, Ashokan, had a friend named Bhaskaran. Bhaskaran had a nephew named Arvind. Sita was married to Arvind. At that time, Sita was around 20 years old. After the wedding, Sita moved to her in-laws' house in Chalakudi, about 90 kilometers from Palakkad. It is important to note that in the Chalakudi house, only Arvind and Sita lived together. Arvind's parents, siblings, and cousins lived in a village called Aluva, 30 kilometers away. They would only visit once every week or 10 days. 2 months into the marriage, Ashokan, Sita's brother, went to Chalakudi to visit his sister. Sita brought him snacks and water. As she approached him, Ashokan noticed that one side of her hand was completely blackened, as if something extremely hot had been placed on it. Ashokan asked, "Sita, what happened to your hand? Why is it black?" Sita replied, "No, it just got burned by mistake while I was cooking on the gas stove." Ashokan accepted her explanation, but deep down he felt Sita was hiding something. He returned home, unaware of the grim reality. The abuse. The truth was that Arvind was a monster. He subjected Sita to physical, mental, and sexual torture. Once when Arvind's parents were visiting, he threw hot water on Sita right in front of them. The society at that time was not progressive. His parents didn't object. They thought it was normal for a husband to control his wife and assert his dominance. Sita, too, had normalized it, thinking this is society, and I have to endure it. Geeta says her grandfather was a progressive thinker. Had he known, he would have taken Sita away immediately. But Sita never told him, not wanting to burden her family. Arvind's family had an old ink trading business. As time passed, the violence escalated. One day, Arvind beat Sita so brutally that her cream-colored sari turned red with blood. His mother was present. Instead of helping, when Sita tried to throw the sari away, her mother-in-law took a large bottle of ink and poured it over the sari to hide the bloodstains. This continued for 2 years. They had no children, and Sita secretly thanked God for it, knowing a child would only suffer in that house. The turning point. Ashokan eventually found out about the domestic violence. He tried to bring Sita home, but she refused, saying, "This is my life. If this is my fate, I will endure it." One night, around 12:30 a.m., Arvind came home heavily drunk. Usually, Sita would leave the door unlocked so she wouldn't have to wake up to let him in. But that night, the door was locked from the inside. Finding the door locked, Arvind started screaming Sita's name. He yelled so loudly that neighbors came out asking him to quiet down. After screaming a few times, Arvind went quiet. That's when he heard a terrifying female voice from behind him. The voice said, "How dare you shout? Scream one more time and see what I do." The voice was so horrifying that Arvind trembled with fear. He ran away immediately and only returned the next morning when he was sober. The haunting begins. The next day, Bhaskaran, the uncle, was visiting. Arvind returned around 11:30 a.m. Sita asked where he had been all night. Arvind was furious. He wanted to hit her for locking him out. But then he remembered the voice from the previous night and froze. He told Bhaskaran everything. Bhaskaran's expression changed. He suspected something, but told Arvind it was likely a hallucination caused by alcohol. But Arvind knew it wasn't a hallucination. The fear lasted for 3 or 4 days, during which Arvind came home before sunset. But as a week passed, his fear faded. One night, he returned from a trip late, around 12:30 a.m. Again, the door was locked. Irritated, he started shouting at Sita. Suddenly, he heard the same voice from behind. "Go away from here, or I will drink your blood. Your dead body will be found in an alley. Go away." The voice came from the back wall. Angry and scared, Arvind checked the wall but saw no one. As he turned back to the house, he sensed someone standing a little distance away. In the dim moonlight, he saw a woman in a sari standing across the street, her head tilted, staring straight at him. Before he could react, a shadow whispered right into his ear. "I told you to leave. I will drink your blood. Your wife will become a widow, and your father childless." He turned to see Sita standing right next to him. Her face was inches from his, her eyes wide and terrifying. She stared at him and let out a creepy laugh. She pointed a finger at the burn mark on her own hand and said, "You shouldn't have done that." Arvind begged for mercy. Sita released him. He was too scared to sleep in the bedroom, so he slept in the sink area. 2 weeks passed. Arvind avoided Sita completely. Then his family visited again. During lunch, Sita walked out wearing the same ink-stained sari from years ago. Arvind was furious. "Change that sari," he ordered. Sita ignored him. His mother asked her to change. Sita acted deaf. Arvind lost his temper and grabbed Sita's hand to drag her to the room. Sita pushed him with supernatural force. Arvind flew across the room and hit the corner. Sita screamed in a demonic voice, "How dare you touch me?" She growled and threw a steel vessel at him. Arvind screamed to his parents, "It's the Yakshini, save me!" His brother grabbed a heavy pan and hit Sita on the head. She collapsed. They took her to a tantric for an exorcism and brought her back. The end of Arvind. For the next week, Sita acted strangely, refusing to eat, wearing the ink-stained sari, and waking up at night crying, pointing at empty corners saying, "She is with me. She will take me." Eventually, she seemed to normalize. The parents left. Arvind, thinking the danger was over, decided he needed an heir. He went to the kitchen where Sita was working and tried to force himself on her. Sita grabbed his hand and pressed it onto the burning hot clay pot on the stove. She started crying and screaming in a terrifying manner. Then, she lifted Arvind and slammed him onto the large stone grinding slab, silbata. She picked up the heavy pestle stone and struck him on the head. She laughed a chilling, creepy laugh. Arvind, bleeding and terrified, managed to push her away. He looked at her, disheveled hair, wide eyes, walking slowly toward him. Panic took over. Arvind ran out of the house, straight onto the main road. Crash! A speeding car hit him. Arvind died on the spot. The aftermath. When the family arrived, Sita was gone. They thought the Yakshini took her. But 21 days later, Sita returned to her brother in Palakkad. She told her brother, "I don't know what power entered me. Was it a Yakshini? I don't know, but I felt a supernatural strength protecting me. Whenever he tortured me, she appeared." Her brother asked why she didn't leave sooner. Sita replied, "I wanted him to feel the trauma. I wanted him to know what it feels like to be helpless." Sita was a deeply religious woman. It is believed that the Yakshini did not come to harm her, but to protect her. Sita lived with her brother for a few years and eventually remarried at the age of 34 to a man named Satish. They are currently living a happy and prosperous life. This story blends elements of true crime and folklore, typical of the Kerala region's Yakshini legends.